Hey everyone, in this video we are going to get started on our use notes project. Okay, so this is like a simple app, in order to deal with CRUD operations, to understand all of the Next.js features. So for that, let's get started on this project. So first of all, we just need a database to in order to store and retrieve some amount of data. Okay, so the best option which we are going now for is MongoDB. Okay, so this is a free and open source database which we can integrate within our applications. So I'll be teaching how you can integrate them within your app itself. Okay, so if you go to mongodb.com, you can click on sign in, and or if you don't have an account, you can just create one. So I'm just going to sign in. So once you create an account, you will be prompted with some questions, which after you answer them, you will see an interface like this. So let's click on this create button here. So we are just going to use the free plan at the moment. We are not going to pay anything. So let's stick with the default. So it will by default select the region which is nearest to your location. So for me it's India, and the service provider we can leave it as AWS. Okay, so now I can just click on create deployment. Okay, so let's wait for it. So after that, it gives you this window where you need to connect to your cluster. So cluster is nothing but a collection of your tables that you create in MongoDB. Okay, so first thing is we just need to select a username, and we just need to select the password as well. So I'm just going to stick with the defaults, and later I'm just going to change it. So we can just click on the next step, that is choose a connection method. Okay, so I just need to set this up. So we need to click on this create database user. So this will go ahead and create a user to the database, and now actually we need to go to the next step, that is choose a connection method. Okay, so for now we are actually interested in getting the connection string, which this is a string where we just need to put it in our application once we are willing to connect to our MongoDB account. Okay, so once it's connected, we can perform all sorts of operations, which I'll be teaching you after this. Okay, so now we need to go to this drivers, and we just need to copy this connection string right over here. Okay, so this contains like your username, your password, and everything else is, and also we need to mention your database name also here. Okay, so let's copy this and just go to our code, and then let's paste this in a environment variable. Okay, so that later we can fetch this and keep this secure and not push it to our GitHub or anything like that, because these are all sensitive information. So we are going to store this in our .env file. All right, so back in VS Code, right now I'm going to create a file to store our environment variable. So let's go to the root and create a file called .env.local. Okay, so .env. Okay, so this will store all of our environment variables. Okay, so you just need to pass in a key and then the value. Okay, so the key I'm going to set this up as like MongoDB underscore URI. Okay, so you can just call this anything and then paste in our connection string right over there. Okay, so this contains of your username and your password. Okay, so after that we just need to provide our collection name. Okay, so we haven't created the collection yet. Okay, so we'll be creating that now. Okay, and don't worry about the password, I'll be changing it after this video. So after this we can click on the next step, and everything is done. Okay, so now we can go to this database tab, and over there it will show us all of our collections that we have, or tables that we created. Okay, so for that we don't have anything yet, so we just need to create one. Okay, so we can click on browse collections, and what is this? So we just have some dummy data, so let's delete this and create one of our own. Okay, so we can copy and paste this to delete. So let's drop this database, and let's start fresh from the one which we are dealing with. So add my own data. So let's create the database name. Okay, so I'm going to give the name as use notes, like this. So the collection name I'm going to give it as notes. Okay, so we can create so this is like a table within our database, so we can create multiple other tables. Okay, so and this is the name of our database. Okay, so let's click on create. Okay, so our database is now created, and we can go ahead and access this right now within our application. Okay, so back in VS Code, so now we can start building this application. So to get started on dealing with our database, we need to have some system in order to communicate with our database. So for that, I'm going to use a ODM such as Mongoose in order to deal with MongoDB commands. Okay, so I'm going to the terminal and going to install a package over there called Mongoose. Okay, so let's hit npm install and Mongoose like this. Okay, so let's wait for it. Okay, so now I'm going to create a file inside the source directory. Okay, so I'm going to put that inside a folder, which is always a good practice. So I'm just going to call this db, and inside that I'm going to create another file called db.ts. Okay, so this will go ahead and initialize our database, and it will set up our connection over there. Okay, so we are going to create a function which anytime we are going to deal with any kind of database action, so it will call this function and go ahead and make certain actions like that. Okay, so let's first of all import the Mongoose module itself like this, and after this I am going to create a function connect to db or something like that. So I'll just turn off the scope pilot. Okay, so first of all, let me tell you that we are not dealing with any kind of back end or front end. Okay, so Next.js is purely we are dealing with one single directory, that is the main one. So usually in our React app we used to have a back end and a front end. Okay, so everything here works within just one directory. Okay, so we are going to set up everything over here and also deal with API actions. Okay, I'll be also be showing you that in subsequent videos after this. And let's now create a function to connect to our database. Okay, so I'm going to call this export const connect to db like this, and this is an asynchronous function, so we need to write this async, and after this we are going to create a function body, and let's give this a type. Okay, so this will not return anything. Okay, so this is just a works like a utility function. So this actually returns a promise, so I'm just going to write promise and void, since it doesn't return anything, right? It should be like this. Okay, so let's create our function body. So now let's open our try catch block like this, and within the try block we are just going to connect to the MongoDB. Okay, so let's await on this. So the mongoose module dot connect. Okay, so this is a function which is used to connect, where we need to pass in our connection string. Okay, remember that we grabbed it in our .env.local. Okay, so this string over here, so we just need to pass them over here. Okay, so we can grab our environment variables using the process like the web API. So process.env dot the name of our connection string. Okay, so that is mongodb.uri. so let me just copy this and paste it over here. So this will grab the environment variable. Okay, so TypeScript is complaining about the type of this. So usually it will be in a form of a string, right? So we can pass this as string like so. Okay, so this is done. So this will go ahead and connect our our string to our MongoDB. So in case if it fails to connect, it will go to this catch block and run our error message over there. Okay, so for now we are just going to console log the error message. Okay, so like this, and now we can just give this a type of any. Okay, so the error can be of any type. And now the main feature of Next.js, let me tell you, is about caching, right? So it will not rerun the same function again and again, so it will always use the cached one. So for that, whenever we want to run our MongoDB function of this connect to DB, so it will check that it is already there in the cache. So if it is there in the cache, it will not run this function again, so it will grab values from there itself. So, okay, so in order to handle that, we can just create a global variable right here called if it is already connected. So if it is already connected, we do not want to connect again. Okay, so it will pick from the cache itself. So let's create that is connected, and this type is going to be a boolean, and the initially is going to be false. Okay, So before running our try catch, we are going to check the value of is connected. So if it is already connected, we do not want to connect again. Let's check for that. So if is connected, so if is connected, then we are going to console log with a particular message saying that that MongoDB is already connected. Okay, and then we are going to return from the function. Alright, so it will not reach this try catch block, so it will return as it is. So once we connect to the database, we are going to set the value of is connected to back to true. Okay, so my mistake, this should be let. Okay, since we are mutating this variable here, so we are going to set the value of is connected to true. Okay, like so. Okay, so if there's any error, it will log us to the it will log the message to the console. Okay, so this is all about our connection to our database. So this is the process in Next.js. So we are doing it slightly different when it comes to React. Okay, so or Node.js applications, right? So since this deals with caching, so we have to do it like this. And also let's give a console log here of saying that MongoDB is connected. Alright, so this is done. So now we can go ahead and create our first schema for our use notes application. Okay, so that is the node schema, where we will be just be storing the title and the description of that particular note that we are creating. Okay, so right next to this DB, let's create another folder over there called as models. Okay, so this will contain all of our different models for our application. So I am going to create one called notes model.ts. Alright, so now let's import the Mongoose library itself. Alright, so after that we are going right below this and creating our very first schema. Okay, so let's call this node schema and set this to a function which takes in the schema. Okay, so now we can create the instance of schema. So I'm going to say new schema. So let's import that from Mongoose right here. Okay, so after that this is a function where takes in okay, so this is a constructor which takes in various parameters. Okay, like the schema of our application. Okay, so the first thing is going to be our title. Okay, so that is going to be a string. Okay, so title, not like this, so that value is going to be a string, and then the description. Okay, so then the content actually. Okay, so let's call this content and set this to a string again. Alright, so TypeScript is complaining about like what is this. Okay, so this actually should be capital S, so string. Okay, so now we can, so our node schema is very simple. This contains just the title and the content, and now we can go ahead and export our schema. Okay, so let's first of all create a variable over here called node, and then we are going to export that. Okay, so remember Next.js we have this caching system, right? So if the model is already created, we do not want to create another one. So for that we can just use the previous one if it is already created, or if it is not created, we can create a new one. Okay, so for that we can use a mongoose models. Okay, so this will list all of the different models in our application, and then we want to check for the node model if it is already created one. So if it is not created, I'm going to use the or operator and going to create one model over there. Okay, so mongoose.models. Okay, and I'm going to pass in the node model. Okay, like this, and then pass in our node schema. Okay, so this is how we have been doing previously. Okay, so the node schema, and now we just need to define the types for this. Okay, so for that we can import like the type from the Mongoose itself. So the first is going to be the document. Okay, which we are going to destructure. Okay, and then we are going to assign the type of this. Okay, so let's create an interface here right at the top to create the type of our node document. So interface, and set give the name of node document, and this is going to extend the document that we receive from Mongoose. Okay, so extends document. Okay, so within that we are going to pass in the title and the content. Okay, so those two are going to be strings, right? Okay, so our node document has been defined, so we just need to assign this as a type, as a TypeScript generic. Okay, so we can just use the angle bracket and then pass in the node document like this. Okay, so not like this. It's adding a closing tag as well. Okay, so it should we need to open this as well. Okay, so everything is looking good. So finally let's export the node itself. So export default node. Alright, so our nodes model is now complete, so we can just go ahead and create our first so there's nothing to show as a result from today's video. Okay, so we have just created our database connection, and we are right now like created a model for our nodes. Okay, so I can just run and show you what exactly it does, like whether our database is actually connected or not. So for that we can run our application. So we can go to the terminal and hit npm run dev. All right, so right now I'm in my root page.tsx. Okay, so I just imported the connect to db module from this db.ts and just running that function over here in order to connect to our database. Okay, so once I click that, and once I run this function and run our main application, you see that we have our log over there that MongoDB is connected. Okay, so if I just go back to my application, which is nothing yet built so far. So and again if I just refresh this, you see that we see that MongoDB is connected. Okay, so if I just go to my file, and you see that we have the console log that MongoDB is already connected. So if it is already like connected, okay, so that's why we see the log message here. And again if I just refresh, you see that MongoDB is already connected. Okay, so it will not go and try to make this connection again, and it will every time use the cached version of this. Okay, so this is just for testing. You don't have to like import this within our main page.tsx. Okay, so we are going to make some server actions which we will be coming into our later topics about dealing with our database actions, and then we are going to like move ahead from there. Okay, so that's all from this video for today. So in the next video we are going to create our UI, where we will be creating various other like we are going to display all of the different nodes that we have in our database. So we are going to use Tailwind CSS and design it. Okay, so just to make like look fair enough. Okay, like we are not going to like deal into like intense designing and all. So we are just going to keep it simple and learn all of the features in Next.js. So we will be doing that in the next video, and finally communicate with our database and bring this website to life. Okay, so let's do that in the next video. Okay, so see you there.